So
So
they
look,
asked me to ask you about your superpower.
oh, the
Do you know what they're talking about?
yes,
What's your superpower, Wings?
my superpower is to diagnose vehicles by sitting in them.
Oh, I did hear about that. Do you is that true?
I am pretty accurate with it, yeah. And
But
Kyle pretty much lied through his fucking teeth on PK about it. So I usually don't comment on
I
a lot of shit, but I commented on that one because, like, the
okay. What
truth
did he get
is,
wrong? Because he feels like you find minor things that are off and call it lying, whereas he feels
I
like
don't
he's
remember his entire story right now because I haven't listened to it in a while. But
okay.
here's the truth. So, like, if you want deviations from it, the truth was this: like, I was doing FPS boot camp, and I drove my truck to Kyle's house, and on my way up to Kyle's house, I realized that my back brakes weren't up to snuff. I probably shouldn't have took this trip with the back brakes in the way they should have been. So,
Okay.
like, I don't have any of my tools. I don't have anything like that at Kyle's house. Kyle doesn't have a whole lot of like tools that he works on vehicles with at the house he was living at the time.
Uh-huh.
And so I'm out of my element. I don't have anybody there. I don't have any tools, but Jeremy does. And Jeremy was in a
Okay.
situation where he needed money, and I wasn't in a situation where I needed as much money as Jeremy did. So I offered Jeremy, like, hey man, would you change my back brakes for me? He goes, yes. So we agreed upon a sum to change my back brakes. So he does it at his daddy's farm, Kyle's daddy's.
Okay.
And what ends up happening is Chevrolets are known notoriously for bad brake lines.
Okay.
And what ended up happening is when he pushed the caliper back in, it pushed a lot of rust into my brake line, and it made the caliper stick because it wasn't getting the right amount of fluid it needed to open and close. You following me?
I am, yeah. Yeah,
So
people don't know when you replace the brake, you kind of expand them again and it pushes fluid into the
what
system and
happens
then
is
the
the
next
caliper shrinks
cylinder.
down as your pads degenerate, and like when you put new pads on it, you got to pull the caliper back out and let it sink back down into the seat because like you have a
Pull
lot
them
more pad.
apart. Yeah.
Um,
I've done it.
um, so I get in and I drive back to Kyle's house, and my back end is jumping, is shaking, and I'm like, oh no, that's a stuck caliper. And I get to Kyle's house, my back wheel is literally steaming from all the heat coming off my brakes. And like,
Hmm.
so like I'm Kyle at the time, was, he always says like he knows a lot about cars. He's driven a lot of cars. Like, Kyle, jump in the truck with me. Take me down the road. See if this feels weird. Because by the time I got back to his house, it eased off some because it had moved some, and wasn't sticking completely. Like it would stick a little bit, not stick, stick a little bit, not stick. And I'm like, I've drove this truck at the time. It was like 14 or 15 years. It's 18 years now. I know every in and out of how this truck drives. I can tell you when the exhaust is traveling wrong in it because I'm that in tune with that truck because I've driven it for so long. You probably the same with your Tacoma. Like you would
All
know when
right.
something's wrong with it. And I'm like, something's wrong with my back brakes. And I didn't want to like Jeremy fuck my back brakes up because there's all kinds of things that can go wrong when you repair something, right? You could repair something and inadvertently destroy something else that's been neglected on the vehicle. So I'm like, and Kyle looked at that as like me trying to get out of like FPS boot camp. That's the way he worded it. But no,
Right.
but no, like all that happened was like I called a local mechanic shop. I'm like, yo, I'm having this trouble. I changed my back brakes recently. Can you come check it out? And Kyle had to drive his car up there, and I had to ride back with him. I dropped it off. He goes, yeah, you cracked your rotor. I had to get new rotors, new calipers, new brakes put on the back. So I had to get the brake job done again, and I just had him do it because I didn't want to trust Jeremy to do it again because I had to drive this truck back to Myrtle Beach, which was like a 6-hour drive. So I got it done there, and the reason I didn't do it myself was one, I didn't have any tools, and I had no access to tools, and two, it was the easiest alternative to get me safely back to where I was going to get. And even when I got the truck repaired, I ended up staying until I think Thanksgiving, which is what my agreed time I was going to leave anyway. Because I went there October 11th. I left November 23rd. which was about a month.
I got lost. Are these the October 11th to 23rd? That's when you were at Kyle's?
Yes, October 11th to November 23rd.
Okay, November 11th to 23rd. That's how long the boot camp was?
Yes. That's how long I was at Kyle's house.
Okay. And
people keep had this assumption that I left early. I didn't leave early.
I think you did. I think you wanted to leave at 3 weeks, and we got you to stay like, I don't know, 3 more days or 4 more days or something.
There was a Painkiller Already that people were hounding me on. I didn't want to be a part of, and that was right around the halfway point. And then this was before the PlayStation 4 even came out. So like,
okay,
because the PlayStation 4 came out that November. And after that PKA, I told Kyle I'll stay till Thanksgiving because I wanted to go back and do Thanksgiving with my family. And that's when I left.
I think you stayed. I think you left about a week early.
No, I didn't leave early at all. If I left early, it'd be like two, possibly 3 days early. And at that point, we really weren't doing anything boot camp wise. Like
it had fizzled out.
Yeah, like I was pretty much just hanging out at Kyle's house, walking myself, doing everything myself, and like we weren't doing any more videos. It was over with. Like I was just there.
Kitty's in my chat. She says you left 6 days early, and that ties in with my memory.
Well, I don't remember 6 days. I remember I left. I left to go back during Thanksgiving.
Okay. So I don't remember the start.
How am I lying?
I just remember it being a little early because I was working hard during. It was a PKA. You wanted to go. I think you weren't going to attend that PKA, and then you kind of did it the last second.
Well, that's because I got hassled because I felt like if I attended that PKA, it would just be what it was, just a terrible show full of like drama. And it was one of the worst PKAs we ever did. And it's the one that always gets brought back.
Big Nasty or whatever that guy's name was. Who was that Halo player?
I don't remember that.
Boss Nasty?
Oh, Boss Nasty. Yeah. I do kind of remember that.
I wasn't on that one, but it was like the worst one ever. Apparently.
I think that one gets me a lot of flack because like I didn't like doing the weight loss talk. And I think I did a lot of it because like it was kind of hounded on me.
Yeah, I don't think it made for good content. I thought it did at the time.
It did.
But looking back, I think I was wrong. With the one exception when Joe Lozon fussed at you, because that was funny. Like that was, come on, Joe had a knack for it.
I don't.
He'd play the damn Incredible Hulk.
You know how many damn PKs I've done? Like I don't remember half the shit happened on PK. Like even like I've done 176 episodes or some shit like that.
Is that right?
Yeah,
the time flies. Someone had calculated that I did more PKA from this house than my last one, and it was like, what? Like, I guess it's right. They're usually right about stuff like that, but I didn't realize that.
Everybody remembers dates, but if Kitty's in the chat, she'll tell you that we pretty much weren't doing FPS boot camp stuff by the time I left. Like we had nothing planned.
She said Wings did bust his butt at boot camp though, so she's saying
I went in and tried hard. I did. I mean, you could physically see the difference between day one where I was struggling to hit a tire with a baseball bat, and then like toward the end of like the videos where like I was beating Jeremy on certain activities.
Nice. Yeah.
Like I would wake up every morning. I would walk. I'd get the mail, and then like I'd sit around and do nothing for a while. If Kyle wanted to work out, we'd work out. And then later that night, I'd usually get on the elliptical or go down in the gym and do weights.